Hey everybody, welcome back to the Crazy Monkey Midwest video blog. This is Matt from Crazy Monkey Midwest Martial Arts. And in this video blog, what I promised to talk about was play and play in the martial arts. So a while back, I posted a video on the Facebook page about play as it pertains to fitness, and a lot of great information in that video. I hope you checked it out. I hope you enjoyed it like I did. And in particular, one of the things that I really want to expand upon is there was some discussion in that video of the ancient Greeks and their view of play and the different phases or types of play. And I really want to expand on this because I think it really is very useful for us to think about martial arts and play in the martial arts using some of these ideas. So if you remember from the video, the three phases or the three types of play that they talked about were frolic, competition, and war. And so just quickly to discuss these things, frolic being kind of silly or aimless play, things that you do just for enjoyment of them, for exploration. There's not really a particular goal in mind. You're just kind of doing it to do it. Competition, we're all pretty familiar with what competition is, but even, the ancient Greeks had, I think, a slightly different view of what competition really meant compared to maybe what we see today with things like, mixed martial arts and the UFC and even, other professional sports. And then war, war is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's the most serious kind of play where we're just taking it very seriously. There's really no it's not done for fun. It's done, just to prepare you for war, essentially. So these are ideas that really, I think, resonate and align with some of the things that we do in the martial arts. So, for me, the way I kind of look at these as they apply to my training and the training that I do with my clients, frolic is, there are, first I'll talk about there are specific kind of activities that I think relate to these three ideas. So frolic is anything that really doesn't directly relate to fighting or sometimes doesn't even relate to performance. So there are things that you do that they may have no implicit goal in mind. You're not doing them because you're trying to better your game or you're trying to win or anything like that. You're just doing them to explore, to enjoy it, to maybe break up the monotony of some of the other training methods and things that you do. Anything that I do in martial arts that's not really functional, I would definitely put in this category because there's a lot of stuff that's just, I just do it for the enjoyment of it, for the feeling, for the exploration, and just because it's fun. Competition, again, it's a pretty common, pretty familiar thing in the martial arts, and competition is so prevalent in martial arts today. But I think for us and for myself, we kind of go back to sort of the classical view of what competition meant, and that really it's more about just the winning or the winning and losing or the outcome of the competition. There was a striving for self-mastery, for challenge, and then also community that happens through this type of play. And so we, because it has kind of a lot of baggage associated with the term, and people think, if I say competition, then people think, oh, tournaments and fights and all of that kind of thing, and that's not really what I do. So I don't use the term competition. Instead, I use the term challenge play or challenge-based play, meaning that when we're engaging in this kind of activity, such as sparring, or at least certain types of sparring, we're focusing on just doing the best we can. We're focusing on, performing to the best of our ability and performing optimally, but we're not really concerned with winning or beating the other person. It's about challenging myself, and that person, my sparring partner, is there to help me challenge myself, and in kind, I'm doing the same for them. And it's about both of us just trying to play our games the best we can and helping each other get better, essentially. So it's not really about one of us trying to beat the other one or win over the other or dominate the other. So that's challenge-based play. We like to use that term instead of competition. And then the last category, war, as I was saying, this is where we take things very seriously. And I like to, this is a place that we go with our training some of the time. And the kind of the appropriate time to do that is, I think, when you're focused on self-defense. So if you're focusing on true, realistic self-defense, then you have to take that topic very seriously. It's not really about playing or goofing around or smiling or having fun at that point. And it's also not really about playing the game per se. So because there's not going to be the feeling out process or the mutual respect that you might have in the challenge play. So in war, and when you're focusing on self-preservation or self-defense, to simulate that, you need to simulate that kind of energy. And in that kind of energy, it's much different. It's a little different, at least, from that kind of mutual respect that you might find in more of a challenge play environment. So, frolic, things that are, either non-functional or things that are just done kind of for fun and just for enjoyment or break up the monotony. Challenge play, the bulk of our sparring, I think, can kind of fit into that, where you're trying to improve your performance, but it's not really about winning or dominating the other person. It's about virtue and about collaboration and community and all of us improving together. And then war, really kind of serious training where, in that time we're focused on surviving, a self-defense situation, minimizing the amount of, harm, that we might take, in that kind of a situation so that we can live safe, healthy, productive lives. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the types of activities you might see in those areas. But the other way that I want you to think about this is that you can really be doing the same or very similar activities, but depending on your mindset and depending on your attitude, it might present itself as one of those three categories. So for example, you can see, I don't see this with my clients because we're very careful not to have this happen. But for example, in some circumstances, you might see two people get on the mat to compete, but whereas one person might be doing it for a more noble, virtuous purpose, the other person is treating it like war. So one person's doing competition or challenge play, the other person is going to war. And so there's a disconnect there. Or for example, you might see somebody, particularly somebody who's just at a world-class, really high level, they might get on the mat and spar with somebody, but for them, they're frolicking. It's just play, they're goofing around, they're purposely making mistakes, they're kind of letting the other person play and all that kind of stuff, even though maybe the other person who's less experienced, they might be really working hard and really trying to perform at a high level, but because the skill levels might be here, this person is kind of playing around and frolicking, whereas this person's having to really concentrate on challenging themselves and performing to the best of their ability. So your mindset that you bring to that activity is as important, if not more important, than what that specific training is. So you can be sparring, for example, and doing any of those three, having any of those three attitudes. You can have a very frolic play attitude, which I like to have a lot of the time, say probably 50% of the time. You can have a challenge mindset that you might do, and I probably would do that about 30 to 40% of the time. And then the remaining, very small percentage of the time, you might take it very, very seriously if you're, for example, training for self-defense. So just a quick kind of a few things to think about with that, and I'll leave you with three things that I see as necessary for you in order to make something play, in order to define something as play and to define it as very healthy training. There are three things that I think you absolutely have to have and you have to bring to the process. So these definitely apply to frolic and to challenge-based play, not quite so much to war. But the three things you need to have are, one, a sense of humor. You can't take yourself too seriously throughout this process. In order to play, you have to have a sense of humor about yourself, about your mistakes, about your abilities, and just you have to have fun and you have to have a sense of humor to have fun. The second thing is detachment from outcomes. If you are so attached to winning or dominating or scoring the technique or anything like that, then you're no longer playing, in my opinion. So I think detachment from outcomes and just kind of engaging in the process and letting it unfold naturally, I think is a huge part of play. And then the third, which I think is probably the big thing that really differentiates play from what we often see in the martial arts community of hyper competitiveness and just people taking the play and turning it into war, is the idea of reciprocation, give and take, me and my partner. It's not just about me, it's about them benefiting from this training experience as well. And it's about give and take. I let them play, they let me play, we play off of each other, and that's what allows us to grow and to play and to get the most out of our training. And so those three things I think you need to have in order for it to really qualify as play, rather than just hyper competitive war. So sense of humor, detachment from outcomes, and reciprocation. So just wanted to kind of get those ideas out and talk about my thoughts on play. In the next video, what I want to do is actually show you guys some drills. So I'll stop just yapping into the camera and show you guys some actual training and some things that we actually do as examples of these kinds of activities, of different kinds of play. So hope you enjoy that. Let me know if you have any questions. Hit us up on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube page, or check us out at crazymonkeymidwest.com. Thanks.